What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday. I'm Jessie Coffield. You are watching The Sweat, presented by DraftKings on Bally Sports Network's 1 hour of DFS and sports betting advice and analysis coming your way. We have so much to get to on the show. We're going to hear from friend of the program, Ross Tucker. We're going to get our analysts' underdog picks of the week. We'll also get their primetime picks, so lots to do. And of course, we're also going to help you fill out those millionaire lineups. Of course, our featured Week 12 contest has a $3.5 million prize pool with $1 million going to first place. So plus, not only does the winner pick up $1 million, they also earn a seat to our DraftKings Tournament of Champions, the ultimate DFS contest for the best of the best in fantasy, which will take place in January, where the winner will walk away with another $1 million and that bling-tastic ring. Okay, we're gonna help you build those lineups coming up in a little bit, but we're gonna start with a look into the DraftKings Sportsbook. That's fun. So to do that, I'm gonna turn it over to my co-host, Emerson Lotzia. He's standing by with our analysts. Take it away, fellas.
First off, Jessie Garfield. Congratulations. She has announced on Twitter and Instagram she is expecting a child.
Which she looks phenomenal.
I had no idea.
Incredible stuff. Although she did tell me she was getting another dog, so she is an absolute liar. Real quick, before we get into this part of the show where we get your early look at your favorite bets, a couple players out there officially active today. Cordell Patterson, Saquon Barkley, Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith. Inactive, guys like Corey Davis, Kadarius Toney, Kyle Rudolph, Alden Tate, another one, but just a heads up in case anyone out there is building DFS.
Thanks,
Could
man.
impact your bets as well. Reed, your favorite is what?
Tampa Bay -3 right now. Look, the Colts are playing really well, right? They're running the ball. Jonathan Taylor is fantastic, and Carson Wentz hasn't needed to do much. And the defensive side too for the Colts, especially the defensive line, is playing well. But when you take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you get Tom Brady on turf, indoors with this offense. I think it's something that you have to buy into. Like their offense didn't look great against the Giants, and they put up 30 points. This is a better defense on the Colts side, but I'm leaning towards the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Brady versus zone coverage. He's got the third highest grade guys per PFF in the NFL. That I really enjoy that. That makes me happy about this bet. And also too, when you look at that Tampa 2 defense that the Colts run, Brady absolutely destroys this. And when you have to rely on Carson Wentz potentially throwing it, that's where I'm going to the opposite side, especially with that defense that can get to Carson Wentz, even though the offensive line for the Colts is strong. Give me Tampa -3.
And Steve, you mentioned it in our early show on SNY there in the New York market that outside of Raymond James Stadium, Tampa Bay has not been good covering the spread, though.
Yeah, they're right. They're 0-5 in that scenario, and they're failing to cover by an average of 10 points. It's a scary number, right? But this is where I get on the Tampa Bay side. It's because they're going to be able to stop Jonathan Taylor, at least from what we've seen all season long. Only one team has gone over 100 rushing yards against this Tampa Bay Buccaneers run defense. All other teams in the league that have faced this team are averaging just over 50 rushing yards. So that means that the Colts are going to have to rely upon Carson Wentz. I don't know if that's exactly a key to success against this Buccaneers team, even though their secondary has been lackadaisical throughout the season. With that said, though, I think this is a great spot for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to keep it rolling. If they stop Jonathan Taylor, they stop this Colts team, they cover that spread easily.
Last 4 games as a dog, though, Jules, Indy's performed well. They got a 4-0 ATS record.
Yeah, the Colts are good. This is a really tough game to bet. We talked about it, Steve and I, on the Unreasonable Odds podcast earlier in the week on Tuesday.
Great plug, dude.
I leaned. There's Steve's fist in my face. Lean to Tampa. It was 2.5 when we talked about it. Strong lean to Tampa. I like that we can sell high on the Colts here. There's no better sell high point than going into Buffalo as a 7-point dog and absolutely dominating that game. And now you get the Tampa run defense kind of strength on strength to stop Jonathan Taylor. We'll see what Carson Wentz can do against that Tampa secondary. That is the weakness. But for the Colts, that's a team you can pass against. So Brady, indoors at this time of the year with that offense, should be able to score some points. I am a little worried about how hot this Colts team is, but you can't ignore that you're selling high on them, and you're getting Tom Brady at a short number, a field goal. It feels like Tampa should win this game, but what do we know about the NFL this year?
That's true. It's been highly unpredictable.
Yeah, and look, Lombardi Lenny is playing really well. I mean, once you leave Jacksonville, it seems like you just find yourself
recipe for success. A little toxic locker room.
Success.
Okay,
no,
right.
The Colts team is fine, but these are the spots too, right? Are we buying in a little bit low on Tampa Bay as well, right? Because we're thinking, look, they didn't look good against Washington football team, right? And then they come in the Giants. And a lot of the stuff that they did on offense, some of their shortcomings, are things that can be fixed, right? They dropped a lot of balls. They had some offensive penalties. They have some injuries on the offensive line that might hurt a little bit. But again, this is Tom Brady against his zone defense. I think this is them winning by at least a touchdown.
In season 2 now without Tom Brady, the Patriots look like they're finally getting things right here, Steve. 7.5-point favorites at home, too, against a beat-up Titans team. This is your favorite bet. Why is that?
Yeah, Jeremy Fowler on Twitter mentioned that the Titans, of all the skill players that they're playing today, has no more than 275 yards. Are you kidding me? So now they're going to cover against the Patriots? That's not going to happen. By the way, the Patriots have covered in 5 straight games. They're covering by an average margin of 8.8 points. That's the best in the league. Since the Patriots faced the Dallas Cowboys, when they gave up 35 points, they've allowed a total of 50 points in 5 straight games since. Quick math says that's an average of 10 points per game. Opposing quarterbacks have an average completion percentage against this team of 56%. Who is Ryan Tannehill going to throw to in this game when they're inevitably playing from behind? A bunch of people that are just coming off the stands. Hey, you look like you can catch a ball. Come play for the Titans today. You can do it. That's literally the mentality this team is running today. 7.5. It's gone up a half point since this morning. Might get a little leery because of that half point, but I think the Patriots win this game in a blowout. Not worried about the half point. Give me minus 7.5.
All right, so if the Texans can beat Tennessee on the road by 9, I mean, the Pats should easily be able to cover 7.5. Right?
Yeah, transitive property, of course. Yeah, look, I mean,
Don't start with feeling weary. Don't do it.
but it does, it does, right?
Stop
How many times have we felt so? We sat here, we're like, the Buffalo Bills are going to absolutely trounce the Jacksonville Jaguars.
No.
Yeah, they could put up a stinker. Like these spots, right? They feel a little bit weird. Like when you get so confident in a game. And Steve's right. Everything that he says is absolutely right.
Thank you.
Nick Westbrook-Akine is their best player, and I really want to see to say that name because he was having trouble earlier. But
You did it, dude.
yeah, thank you.
Thanks a
nailed
lot.
it, bro.
Good job, man.
and Vrabel just gets these things done, right? And in the NFL, we just like the sure bets. The sure bets are the ones that we think, oh, this absolutely has to happen. And in this spot, that's the only thing I'm worried about is that Vrabel knows this defense very well. Everyone is saying that the Patriots are going to win by a lot, and all the information points to that. It's just that even with that extra hook, you just never know this day and age. And this, like Julian mentioned, what do we know about the NFL this year? That Tennessee can cover this game, and we're going to be like, well, what the hell?
And they've covered in their last 5 as an underdog, too, Jules. Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee won 4 in a row outright as an underdog at one point of the season. So they've been good. But now we look at this game. The thing that I can't get over is what Steve, who's sitting here right with me, said earlier. There's no weapons. When Derrick Henry goes out, the offense just completely changes. Yeah. And then everything they tried to do to replace him at running back, Adrian Peterson's gone. Jeremy McNichols is hurt. There's no ball carriers. There are ball carriers, but they're not very good ones. Julio Jones and A.J. Brown are the 2 weapons on the outside that we thought were going to, get the Titans over the hump this year. They're not there. They have pass catchers that only Reed can say their names. Look, I mean, the Patriots at minus 5.5 were in my best bets article this week. I'm not going to bet it at 7.5. I just can't get there. But if we look at, we were saying this about the Falcons, like, oh, the value's gone. It went from 4 to 7, and then the 25-0.
Yeah.
And now it's like the same spot, a team with all their weapons missing, like Atlanta had, except it was a bad spot for the Patriots. Rookie quarterback on the road, short week. Now it's a rookie quarterback at home, long week. It feels like the Patriots should do very well in this game.
And you're staying in this game for your favorite bet today.
Oh,
I'm staying in this game because Steve took my bet, which was going to be the Patriots.
Hey,
So he read my article.
Why do you do that to him?
it sounds like I took his bet. Like nobody else can take that bet.
That's true. You're the only person who can take
Right.
the original bet that Steve took from you.
Yeah.
Sure, whatever that means.
I don't even know.
Look, it's pretty much the same theory here. We're talking about the lack of weapons for the Titans. Titans team total under. It's 17.5. I see it literally just ticked down to 16.5. Now at even money on DraftKings Sportsbook. I don't love it. You kind of get through a key number there of the 17, but you're getting even money instead of, I think it was minus 125 before on the 17.5. So I still don't mind it.
If we did this like an hour ago, it would still be your favorite bet.
Yeah, I mean, if we did it on Tuesday, then I could have the Pats minus 5.5 like I wanted them. But the Titans aren't going to score in this game in Foxborough. I'm pretty confident in that. Vrabel was able to pull it off last time, like we kind of talked about. Maybe that lights a little fire under Bill Belichick to win the coaching matchup in Foxborough this time around. I just don't see with the weapons how Tennessee's going to move the ball against a defense that is maybe the best in the NFL right now.
Did you mention earlier about like the possibility of Tennessee scoring a defensive touchdown?
Well, they're able to put pressure, right? Better than I think any team that in other situations. Like the last time the Patriots were favored by this much was against the Jets, and they put up 54 points. Right? The Jets don't have that type of defense, right? And there's no real correlation with a team that loses all of their skill players, like Steve mentioned, that just they don't have anything. But any given Sunday, there's that narrative if you want to play into that. The thing is, though, guys, like honestly, objectively, this is probably a bottom 10 offense, right? With no players. How can you expect them to move the ball? So to what Julian is saying, it does make a lot of sense. Again, this is something that where I'm just staying away, especially it now moving down. All of this stuff is moving, right, in ways that you necessarily don't want it to early on, or excuse me, close up to the game. It's just, this one just feels like a stay away spot to me.
And just real quick,
Is it stay away for you, though, now that it's like moved down?
No, I would honestly love to get at the 17 and a
Yeah.
half, but this is a team who, through 9 straight games, scored 24 points or more. Then last week against the Houston Texans could only score 13. That's very likely to happen again here against what is arguably the best defense in football as of right now. Leads the league in interceptions with 19. Tannehill's been throwing a ton of interceptions as of late too as well. So that's a very legitimate chance. You got me distracted.
It's his hand. You were sticking your fist in his face earlier. Now he's putting his finger in front of
we
him.
saw what that looked like earlier. I kept my hand out of frame because I'm a professional. What I was going to say is one little prop. We already gave out 2 bets in this game. We want to give out another one. One little prop we were talking about before the show. Tannehill, who has his interceptions 4 last week, and he's thrown 1 in, I think, 4 of his last 5 or 5 of his last 6 games. Tannehill's minus 145 to throw an interception against a defense that has been really getting after.
Leads the league. Yep.
All right, the unreasonable odds guys rocking
Flannels.
matching flannels today.
Yeah.
Let's show a little personality.
I mean, let's go. A couple Island guys.
This
Well,
is our
we're
personality.
This is our personality.
Love you guys.
We made it our own.
All right, anyway, guys, it's time to take a break. We're just getting started here on The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. We're breaking down our analysts' favorite underdogs of the week right after this.
Did I take yours or did you have yours?
DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and today, new customers can bet $1 on any NFL game and get $100 if any points are scored. Plus, new fantasy players can play free for your share of millions this season when you make your first deposit. Use promo code SWEAT when you sign up.
Time to talk dogs. You are looking at underdog betting trends through week 11. So away underdogs are covering 62.6% of the time this season. Away underdogs went 6-3 against the spread in week 11. Tennessee, Arizona, and Minnesota are 5-0 against the spread as an underdog. Okay, now it's time to find out Steve and Julian's favorite underdog plays on today's slate. Gentlemen, take us to the dogs. Go ahead.
We will absolutely do so.
Thank you,
Jessie.
Jessica.
Thank you so much. Yes. You look great, by the way. Start with
Thanks,
yours.
guys.
Every week. You're welcome. All right. We're going to underdogs. We're going to a team that opened as a slight favorite in this game, but that has since moved, and I don't quite know why it has moved like this. I'm going with the Green Bay Packers at home. Give me the money line. It's bouncing around between plus 110, plus 120. Green Bay Packers at home hosting the LA Rams. The Rams are a little bit down, obviously. They lost 2 in a row as favorites and then go into the bye week. Now, what are we going to get from the Rams out of the bye week? They're going to incorporate OBJ. They're going to bounce back from these couple of losses. I don't know if that's actually going to happen. I think this team might be what we've actually seen the last couple of weeks, and it's a step down from what we thought they were earlier in the season. And then we have this report from earlier this morning. I like the Packers anyway. I didn't even see this. Steve told me this. Matthew Stafford's playing with elbow pain, back pain,
He's like a crippled
ankle
old
rolled,
man.
but he'll play through it anyway. On the road at Lambeau, which he does know well from his days in Detroit as a Lion, but it's cold. It's a tough place to play. You got this team from LA coming in whose defense is not nearly what we thought it was. It has the 2 studs, Donald and Ramsey. But other than that, I mean, Devontae Adams is perfectly capable of winning those matchups with Ramsey. Aaron Rodgers playing on the broken toe. We found out it's a broken toe this week. It was broken last week when he scored like 40 DraftKings points in Minnesota.
He showed us.
He did show us. It looked lovely. I don't care about any of that. The Packers at home, they're going to find a way to score points on this defense. And this Packers defense, prior to giving up points to Kirk Cousins in a weird divisional road game, they shut down Kyler Murray. They limited Patrick Mahomes. They gave a goose egg to Russell Wilson. Packers are winning this game at Lambeau.
I'm surprised that the Packers are underdogs in this spot here. They've been one of the best covered teams in the league, quite frankly. We always talk about how good Dallas has been against the spread. The Green Bay Packers are right up there with them as well, and for all the reasons that he pointed out. But the biggest reason is Stafford's playing like he's 70 years old in this game. He's got pain everywhere in his body, his ankle, his shoulder, his back. I mean, what happens if he gets hit a couple times? It's freezing cold in Lambeau Field. Now, let me tell you something. I'm not going soft. I'm not going to say, the weather's a factor. But you know what? When you got like old man arthritis in your back, which is not what he has, but that's what I'm just guessing, the cold's going to get you. It's going to bother you a lot. Remember Pierce Dietrich last week had like that old man jacket on? Like, that's how he's going to look on the field today. And all those injuries are true. So I absolutely love the Packers here. Decent teaser piece, too, as well. You can get them up to 7.5, too. There's a good thing there. This is the teaser podcast. We're called Unreasonable Odds, but it might as well be the teaser podcast. So Packers, love that one there. I'm going with the team that it's a gross game. You're probably not going to want to bet this, but this is an underdog, Sam, and there's not a lot of dogs that I like this week. What did the Falcons do last week that makes them deserving to be favorites against the Jaguars? Gross game. I told you, gross game. Here's something you need to know. The Falcons have not scored a touchdown in the last 64 minutes and 21 seconds. That is the last time the Falcons have scored a touchdown. Now, granted, they're not going to be facing a defense like the Patriots like they did the last time out. But the Jacksonville Jaguars should at least be able to do something against Matt Ryan, who's been under pressure the 5th most in the league. So if the Jaguars can get him uncomfortable, where are they going to score? Again, gross game. But if you're telling me I can get the Jaguars as underdogs against a team that should not be favored by any stretch of the means at any point during this NFL season, I'll take the points.
I'm takeless on this game. I don't know what you want me to say. It's a Jaguars-Falcons game, the Thanksgiving weekend.
It's an underdog.
I'm just going to pretend this game doesn't exist.
That's what I'm going to do.
Look, the Jags confuse me. Like they kind of outplayed the Colts and still lost the game on the road. Like they were winning yards per play. The defense showed up a little bit. And then they become a team that, hey, maybe they're going to hang in there at home with the 49ers.
Yep.
No, the 49ers travel out east on the short week, blow them out. Maybe a bounce-back game for the Jaguars, sure. Or maybe they just are turning back into the Jags late in the season like they always do, and Atlanta getting Cordero Patterson back gets a good game out of Matt Ryan, who's been okay this season, and the Falcons win. This is my definition of a coin flip game. So I can't argue with you. Maybe Jacksonville does win the game. I'll flip a coin, heads or tails, and figure it out. Maybe Atlanta wins the game. This game, these teams are so inconsistent that I just can't. I don't know how you handicap it and say this is going to be the side this week. So that's my only resistance to you, is that there's so much randomness in this game that I just have no idea. But apparently you know something that I don't about the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I got a teaser for you.
Okay.
Packers Jaguars.
I knew you were going there.
For both of them there. Let's send it back to Jessie Coffield, who is pregnant, by the way, and should be doing all the segments behind the desk. Like, why is she standing up? Get her behind the desk. But back to you, girl.
Thank you, Steve. All right, thanks, guys. We're going to turn our focus to the fantasy side of this Week 12 slate. But first, take a look at who won $1 million on DraftKings in Week 11. Look at this lineup. All but 2 players rocking the fire emoji. Stephon Diggs really bringing the heat. 33.2 fantasy points, just 8% ownership. Stevenson also delivering north of 30 points. He only had 3.3% ownership. So, Now anyone can become a millionaire on any given week here at DraftKings, but there are certain users who have become really good at it. We got the chance to profile some of our most successful and profitable fantasy football players in a new series we call Chasing the GOAT. So you can follow their fame and fortune journey to the Fantasy Football World Championship happening next month as we try to find out who the GOAT of daily fantasy truly is. Here's a look at episode 1.
Some people might call me the Michael Jordan of fantasy, and I'm not going to argue with them.
When all is said and done, the whistles go, woo!
Awesome-o, you've been number one for multiple years now, but I'm coming for you, buddy. Let's go!
I'm Alex Baker, sometimes better known by my DraftKings handle, Awesome-o. I'm trying to win this DraftKings football championship for a cool $2.5 million. At these live finals, I've had so many people come up and they're like, I want to be as good a player as you, but I just don't have the time between like a family and a job. And that's really why I started Awesome-o.com. We feel like playing DFS professionally or playing for profit shouldn't be a full-time job. You should be able to get all the information you need in an easy manner and be successful and still be able to have a life outside of DFS. I just got back from my honeymoon last Monday, so I did miss a little bit of the football action, so I'm trying to figure out what happened in this week and a half. Now I'm not playing for one person anymore. I'm playing for two people. So I got to make sure I win it for me and my wife now that we're married.
Have you qualified for Miami yet?
Yeah, I got a couple entries, so it'll be fun to go out there and compete. It's $2.5 million this year. Two of the guys I'm keeping an eye out for are Big T and the Whistles Go Woo.
Alex, these guys, you, in my mind at least, you're the unmistakable GOAT of DFS. So you've been a number one player for the 3, 4, 5 years now. What is it?
Yeah, 5 years. If I can keep it this year, it'll be 5. And you also got some new guys that are trying to be in that mix. Whistles Go Woo is one of them, where he's kind of come onto the scene more recently and taken the world by storm.
My name is David Bergman, a.k.a. The Whistles Go Woo! And I'm one of the, I am the champion from last year. That's all I'm going to say. Took it down somewhat in a surprise fashion, I would say. But I'm back again and hoping to repeat if possible. 3 years ago, certainly nobody in the daily fantasy sports world had known about me. I think a ton of people in academia had known me as a professor, succeeding in academic research, in teaching, and doing very well in that trajectory, but certainly not in the daily fantasy sports world. You grow up, you start to understand the things that you've got some skill in. Mine has always been speed. I do everything quickly. I do math quickly. I do computer programming quickly. I solve Rubik's Cubes ridiculously quickly, under 20 seconds. Can even do it blindfolded, also very quickly. Speed was always mine. It helps me in daily fantasy sports. I can make really quick decisions.
Yeah, if I had to guess how many gigahertz David Bergman's brain operated at, I'd probably guess 2.6 gigahertz.
Some people wonder how I succeed on DFS. Well, this is my brain on DFS. I'd be happy to talk about Big T44 as well. He is one of the nicest guys you could ever meet.
My name is Tony Niehaus, screen name on DraftKings, Big T44. I'm here at home right now, but we are working on the road to the FFWC. That is the goal the rest of the year. Ever since I was a kid, I've always been in sports, played basketball, football, golf, baseball. My whole life, it was always, even growing up on Sundays, my punishment would be I'm not allowed to watch football if I ever got in trouble. I've always loved sports. It's why it kind of clicked. Even my wife, Amber, says this was a natural fit from the beginning for me.
There was really no question that this would line up perfectly with who he is, what he's great at, what he loves to do.
Watch these games, pick winners, and just have fun with it, because it's not work for me when I really enjoy it. I would say my biggest edge DFS-wise is for sure the feel of the game, but you have to have numbers in there too. But when you mix the feel and the numbers, I think that's where you get the deadly combo. And if you can do both, I like your chances. So the sweat of DFS is my favorite part. We put our teams in on Sundays, let's say. We go, we watch all the games, we make adjustments, we make late swaps, we see how we're doing in the standings. I probably watch more games than almost anyone, so the sweat part's fun for me. I know the guys I'm super heavy on. I know the guys I'm rooting for. I know the guys I'm rooting against, and honestly, that's the funnest part for me, sitting down watching the games. All the work is done. We just get to see how our work produces, and I love it.
The journey that we're on in this until the Fantasy Football World Championship is to follow along some of the biggest players in fantasy sports, culminating in December in Miami for the big day. Let's go. Give me a heart.
All right, be sure to check out episode 2 of Chasing the GOAT, premiering December 6th on the DraftKings YouTube page. But let's get back to today. It's time to help you make a name for yourself in Week 12 with a little game we like to call Put It on the Board. So joining me for this segment are DraftKings contributors Reed Fowler, Jeff Ulrich, and Pierce Dietrich. Gentlemen, you know the drill. I'm going to give you a player on this week's main slate. You're going to write down how many fantasy points you think they will score on your whiteboards. We will reveal and discuss. So let's get to it. First guy we're going with here is going to be Cam Newton, okay? Cam Newton, 5,600, put up 26.2 fantasy points in the loss to the Washington football team last week. So what do we think? Does Cam's signature dual threat ability have you thinking he racks up the fantasy points in Week 12's matchup versus the Dolphins? What's our take? Let's reveal our boards. Okay, Reeds says 20, I can't read that, 21.96. We got 23 for Pierce. Cam, 20. Okay, Jeff, you have him having the lowest output, so tell me why.
I do. I mean, the Miami pass defense has certainly been getting a little bit healthier at home. The Dolphins have only allowed, they've allowed under 230 pass yards per game. This isn't a projected game. It's got like a under 43 point total. I think you're going to see a defensive battle. I think Cam will probably save his fantasy owners from a bust game just with his legs, but I'm not expecting big passing outputs here. I think you may even see under 20 points. So I'm expecting a muted day from Cam. Probably saves the day with his some rushing ability.
Reed, you only had him having a few more.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Jeff. I think Miami's defense is getting healthier, but they play a lot of man coverage. If you look at what Josh Allen did to them, 855 and a touch on the ground. I'm not saying those two quarterbacks are the same, but he's probably the most comparable of the quarterbacks that the Miami Dolphins have faced. And this is Cam Newton, man. This guy always gets it done. I was not a believer. I was yelling at Julian's face in our hot take last week and saying, this is Cam Newton. I'm not a believer. But he proved to actually be serviceable, especially the ability to elude pressure or to get out of the pocket and elude pressure. So I do think he can get it done on the ground. I got him for at least 2 touchdowns and 1 interception, but getting it done mostly on the ground.
Pierce, you have the most faith in Cam Newton with 23 fantasy points. Why?
Yeah, not much higher. I think we all have the kind of the same take. He's going to be serviceable, a game manager, high floor. But if all three of us are kind of on the same page, then that means probably everybody else is on the same page. And so no one's really expecting upside. So I wouldn't mind actually going after him. We know he's got rushing upside. We know he can get rushing touchdowns. Reed mentioned the man-to-man. That could open up some big plays. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him go much higher than this.
I'm just interested that Reed compared him to Josh Allen. That's a hot take I've written down, Jesse, for later.
Jeff, if you were actually listening, I said he's not the same player, but since Miami hasn't faced any quarterbacks of this guy's stature, that's the closest that we have. But okay,
let's
whatever.
Just put a cap on that. I really wasn't listening, so.
Yeah.
Okay. At least Jeff admitted it. Let's move on to a running back here. Austin Eckler. Here he is. He's going to be 8,400. This dude coming off his massive 4-touchdown performance against the Steelers, good for 41.5 fantasy points. He has an impressive 13 combined touchdowns in just 10 games. Does the trend continue at Denver? What are we thinking, gentlemen? Let's see it. All right, 19.56, Reed, 24 for Pierce, 18 for Eckler. All right, Pierce, you have him having the most. Tell us why.
Well, I don't expect him to get 4 touchdowns again, but someone's going to score touchdowns for the Chargers, and Denver's got a poor run defense, and they allow points to running backs. I'd rather attack Denver with long shots down the field. That seems to be the way to go, but Eckler just has such a high floor. We know he's going to get 50 to 100 rushing yards. We know he's going to get 7 catches or so and 60 receiving yards. Just a matter of touchdowns. I think it's not a stretch to give him 1 touchdown. So I'll give him the extra touchdown, and that'll give him the 24.
Yeah, Reed, you're in like the same general area.
Yeah, I got that 1 less touchdown. I think Justin Herbert running does cut into a little bit of what Austin Eckler can do. And Denver, just like everybody else, saw Austin Eckler put up that 4 touchdown performance in primetime. So I don't think they're going to allow that, even though Denver is down every single linebacker that they've had on this team. I think like 6 or 7 are on IR. I still don't think that. I think you stop Austin Eckler. That's why I think it's a big Keenan Allen game. I think it's a Mike Williams game that he's going to get, back into our good graces, even though Denver does thwart these bigger receivers. But I just think that Justin Herbert running a lot more is going to cut into his performance just a little bit.
Jeff, I like your exclamation point. Tell us.
Well, I mean, we're in the same ballpark. I just probably don't have Eckler getting in the end zone at 18 points. And look, Denver is banged up, but they've also been pretty good at limiting running backs from scoring. Only allowed 5 rushing touchdowns on the year. I think the big thing here is, after you see a guy score like 4 or 5 times, the next defense that comes in says, we got to stop this guy. And I think that's what Denver's going to do. Reed kind of hit on it. I think it's probably a better spot for the receivers.
All right, let's talk about Deebo Samuel. He's 7,900 versus Minnesota here. So, had 16.4 fantasy points in his last game out against Jacksonville. His pass catching production obviously wasn't there, but that was a byproduct of the 49ers attempting only 22 passes. His big rushing output, though, did make him a solid start for his fantasy investors anyway. So do we see him getting more usage in the air today? What do we think? Let's see how many fantasy points you guys are predicting. Reed says 24. Pierce says 25. Hey. Jeff says 30. Deebo the GOAT. Tell us more.
I mean, when are people going to start trusting Deebo Samuel? This guy is the top 3 in terms of fantasy wide receivers every week. He gets 10-plus touches because Kyle Shanahan loves to scheme rushing plays. He loves to scheme screens. He loves to throw deep over the middle to Deebo Samuel. And now he's got the Minnesota Vikings, a team who, ranks bottom 10 in most pass metrics on the season. I mean, they love to get in shootouts. No, I mean, just stop doubting Deebo Samuel this year. He's one of the top fantasy wide receivers. He's a great athlete. He's the leader in yards after the catch. He's probably going to be under-owned again. He's probably going to come up with a couple big touchdowns like he does every week. Just roster him, man.
Reed's in here nodding like he's like, I guess I do agree with that.
Yeah, Eli Mitchell is slated to play, so maybe Deebo doesn't get as many rushes. But yeah, I'm in agreement with Jeff here. Deebo is like Cordell Patterson, or Cordell Patterson is like Deebo. These guys get so much usage. So yeah, I really like it this week.
All right, Pierce, what do we think?
He also has maybe the best matchup against a cornerback this week in Mckenzie Alexander, who has a 46.8 DKFP, or 48 PFF grade, I'm sorry. So he's in a good matchup. We know that they'll use him in all different ways. And I think with Kittle being back on the field, it's stretching these defenses out. It's going to open up a lot of plays for Samuel. So 25 to 30 seems pretty reasonable.
All right, let's talk about Elijah Moore. This guy's 5,600 at Houston. Where is he? He's a little less expensive down the board in terms of wide receivers. He's had a slow start to the season, but last week against the Dolphins, he caught 8 of 11 targets for 141 yards and a touchdown. He also added 15 yards on 1 rushing attempt, good for 32.6 fantasy points. What do we think? Is he going to go off today? Let's see those predictions, gentlemen. 16.5. Reed doesn't think so. 23 for Pierce. 24.24 and an airplane for Jeff. Do explain. Go ahead, Jeff.
Jet, man.
The
he's
jet.
on the
Oh, it's a jet.
Yeah.
It looked like a commercial plane. I'm just saying.
Look, I'm actually. Elijah Moore's been picking up snaps. He's been clearly like their best receiver over the last few games, and he's been converting the targets. That's the biggest thing. Like, he's been a pretty efficient receiver. He helped Joe Flacco have a decent day last game. You've got to think that with Zach Wilson back, I mean, against a weaker Houston defense, they can connect for a couple big throws. I think this is a very good spot for Elijah Moore to keep it going.
Pierce, you also like him in this spot.
I can't believe I'm going with Elijah Moore, especially when we don't really know what to expect with Zach Wilson. But we've seen Moore get into the end zone, have some big plays over the last month or so. And the problem with Wilson was just the pressure that was being applied to him. And the Texans, bottom of the league when it comes to sacks, pressure rate, quarterback knockdown. And they also allow a pretty lengthy ADOT. So I think we can get another one of those big passes to Moore.
All right, Reed, talk to me. You do not think he's going to go off in this
I'm just a
spot.
little bit worried about Zach Wilson. So this is a Zach Wilson, I don't know what's going to happen type of score. But if there is one player that the Jets need to focus on, it's Elijah Moore. The guy's fantastic when he gets on the field. Whenever he plays more than 75% of the snaps, they're targeting him close to 30% of the time, which is the right thing to do. I got him for around 5 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown. But we know that he can take that slant and take it for 80 yards. Just Zach Wilson. Is he going to stay in the pocket? Take that to Elijah.
All right, thanks, guys. That's all the time we have for this segment. Luckily, we got one picture from Jeff. We've got some more daily fantasy advice coming up a little later, but right now I'm going to send it back over to Emerson for a deeper dive into this week's more interesting spreads on the DK Sportsbook.
All right, a smorgasbord of interesting matchups on this Week 12 Sunday slate, and we have one of my best friends here to talk about it. Former NFL lineman, the resilient, the reliable, Ross Tucker. Dude, all right, I'm going to be real. Speaking of reliable, I don't know which teams we can trust anymore in the NFL. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. Just look at Tennessee last week, right? Losing to Houston. Now the Titans coming to Foxborough as an underdog, dude, to face the Patriots, who are riding a 5-game win streak. And oh yeah, they've covered in all 5 of those games as well. Who do you like here?
Well, I'll tell you who we can trust this year for the most part. Underdogs, points. And in this game, I don't expect the Patriots to blow the Titans out. Titans really got embarrassed losing to the Houston Texans at home. But listen, they moved the ball pretty well in that game. It just was 4 interceptions by Ryan Tannehill that prevented the Titans from having a chance to actually win the game. I think this is a close contest. Vrabel, Belichick, former teammate, former coach. I think it's a field goal game either way, so give me the Titans and the points. Patriots are good, probably the better team right now, but that's too many points, man. Give me Tennessee.
Yeah, and that's a good one because Tennessee 5-0 ATS in its last 5 as an underdog. So you mentioned the underdog stat and how you can trust underdogs this year. Tom Brady and the Bucs, okay, so someone who used to call Gillette and Foxborough home, coming off a big Monday night win over the Giants, hitting the road for a clash with the Colts, who just spanked the Bills. And a lot like the Titans spread, this one would have probably been wicked lopsided a few weeks back here, Ross, in favor of Tampa Bay. So how you feeling about backing the fighting Jonathan Taylors?
Well, so I really like the Colts right now as a teaser leg, teasing them up with the way they're playing right now. And even so, I think I would lean Indianapolis. There's a reason why they've won a bunch of games in a row. They've got the formula, man. Look, a lot of these teams playing well right now. If you think about it, San Francisco, the Colts, the Patriots, the Eagles, they are running the rock.
Yeah.
They are leaning on the big boys, the O-linemen, the most sexy guys on a football field, like I was. I'm going with the Colts and the points against the Bucs.
I like that because Tampa Bay hasn't played well, really, outside of Raymond James Stadium. 0-5 ATS, dude, in their last 5 road games. Good luck forecasting the Rams here. The Rams and the Packers, what could very well be a preview of the NFC Championship game. Both these teams losing to inferior opponents their last time out. So we basically got to pick them here, Ross. So take your pick.
Yeah, I'm picking the Rams. A couple reasons. Number one, coming off the bye, I do think that gave them some time to figure out what to do with Odell Beckham Jr. and kind of reset a little bit after back-to-back losses, get Von Miller in the fold. Plus, the Packers are just beat up, man. I mean, now they lose Elton Jenkins to a torn ACL. He was their best offensive lineman with David Bakhtiari out, who's still out. He just had to have his knee scoped because evidently not everything went smoothly with his ACL surgery. It's just too much. It's too much for the Packers right now. Too many O-linemen out going against Aaron Donald and the boys. Give me the Rams.
Well, Green Bay's been that NFL best 9-2 ATS this season, Ross. Let's not forget that. But you make some good points. I'm going to give it to you. Again, you're reliable. As for those Vikings who played the role of cheese grater last week, they've sneakily been one of the better bets in the league this season. So they're in San Francisco where odds makers are giving the 49ers a field goal advantage. Another massive game for the playoff chances of both sides. Who do you see covering?
You know, this is a tough one because it does feel like it could be a field goal game one way or the other. But here's the thing. The Niners have beat down their last couple of opponents. They have finally gotten back to their formula, which is Nick Bosa and the boys on defense and running the football, especially with Deebo Samuel. I think he's like a top 10 running back in the NFL. He plays wide receiver.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the Vikings, they just can't handle prosperity, dude. They just can't do it. Vikings have some success. They are a roller coaster right now where I feel like the Niners are actually a train that's finally on the right track.
Yeah, and they've been playing better as of late, but 1-4 ATS in their last 5 home games. Let's take our talents, though, to the NFC East, a division you know well, a team you know well. The Eagles and the Giants will be throwing down for the first time this season. Philly has won 3 of 4, averaging nearly 35 points a game over that span. How confident are you that your Birds can cover in the Meadowlands? Let's go.
Pretty confident. I mean, they're playing so well right now. I don't love the number. I never like laying, 3.5 in that range, right? But I just think the Eagles are playing at a really high level. I mean, they blew out the Broncos. They dominated the Saints. They've been really good for a month now. They're rushing for over 200 yards a game. Who does that in the NFL? And what the Giants did Monday night did not inspire any confidence whatsoever. There's whispers about job security for different people now within the organization. Give me the Birds.
And despite sitting under 500 on the season, Ross, they are 5-2 against the spread in their last 7 games. Let's talk game totals. Which one are you willing to either take the over on or das under?
I like the under in a game I'm actually going to be at and attending. That is the Ravens and the Browns on Sunday Night Football. Both these teams are a little offensively challenged right now. Baker Mayfield's not playing well. The Browns can't really move the football all that great. The Ravens, they've had all kinds of guys in and out of the lineup, including Lamar Jackson last week. I don't think there's a lot of points in this one. I think it's an old-fashioned AFC North 20-17 type of game. Give me the under.
And neither one of those offenses have really been popping as of late. Let's go in the land of DFS. Aj Dylan disappointing you, disappointing me, and fantasy players everywhere producing just under 16 DK fantasy points while being Chalky McChalkerson on the Week 11 slate. So stop trying to take the easy way out, Ross. And yeah, all of you at home as well. Who are you feeling this week, Mr. Tucker?
Yeah, I'm not doing that again. I'm not doing a guy that everybody else does. I don't like doing that. It's more fun to go for the gusto and to give you someone that nobody else is going to have in their lineup. That's why I'm going with the man named Tyrod Taylor, quarterback for the Houston Texans.
Yes.
He is a running son of a gun, and he's good throwing the ball as well. I think he's going to continue to get better, and the Jets defense stinks. Nobody else will have Tyrod Taylor in their lineup. You do it, you win.
I love that, and he's cheap. It's like a value play. He's 5-3 here on DK. Had nearly 20 points last week in the ginormous upset victory of the Titans. So we will wrap now. Right now, Ross, little Monday night preview. We got the Washington football team, winners of 2 in a row. I'm not kidding you here. It's on the internet, so it's got to be true. Hosting the broken Seahawks. Russell Wilson and company experiencing some unprecedented struggles. Another game that's essentially a pick'em. So let's go. Take us home. Bring us home. Who you got?
I got Washington. In Taylor Heinecke, I trust right now. Listen, I'll believe that the Seahawks turn this around, fix this, whatever you want to say, when I see it. They cannot score. They cannot move the football. Russell Wilson's not right. The offensive line's not playing well. DK Metcalf can't make a contested catch to save his life. Meanwhile, Terry McLaurin makes every contested catch. And the O-line for Washington's playing well. Heineke's playing well. Give me the football team on Monday Night Football.
I like that because following its last 8 straight up wins, Washington 6-2 ATS, dude. Ross Tucker, 'tis the season. We appreciate you, dude. Thanks, man.
My pleasure.
All right, great stuff, guys. We always enjoy getting Ross's insight on the day's slate. We also love getting insight on this week's primetime games. We're going to do that with Jeff and Pierce when we come back. But first, listen to friend of DraftKings, Gary Vaynerchuk, talking about the newest DraftKings podcast and how you can win by watching.
Hey guys, it's Gary Vee. Make sure you tune in to DraftKings YouTube channel for Die Hard Dialogue, where each week we do a listener league, DFS, and give away some of my highly valuable football cards, and we boost one prop bet. Die Hard Dialogue, DraftKings YouTube channel.
DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and today, new customers can bet $1 on any NFL game and get $100 if any points are scored. Plus, new fantasy players can play free for your share of millions this season when you make your first deposit. Use promo code SWEAT when you sign up.
Welcome back to The Sweat, presented by DraftKings on Bally Sports Network. I'm Jessie Coffield. We've been going over the main Sunday slate like crazy today, but let's dive a little deeper into those primetime games. We're going to do that with Pierce and Jeff. Gentlemen, I need your favorite DFS play for Browns-Ravens. Pierce, you're going with Austin Hooper, and Baltimore has been generous to opposing tight ends this season.
Well, if it's the primetime pick segment, we're contractually obligated to talk about a tight end. And yeah, Baltimore struggled against tight ends. We've mentioned that every week. Baltimore does not have the pass defense that the public thinks that they do. And this just seems like it's going to be one of those conservative AFC North grinded out games. Mayfield's not 100%, probably not going to be slinging the ball downfield, but he'll definitely be working the ball to his tight end. They've got to pass somewhat, and that means Hooper will probably be the lucky beneficiary.
And Jeff, you like Nick Chubb despite the return of Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple factors here. I mean, Nick Chubb is just getting a lot of carries. 4 of his last 6 games, he's had over 20 carries. He's also been very productive on the road, if you want to read into that stat at all. He's averaging over 24 DK fantasy points in road games. But I think the biggest thing here for strategy is if the Browns are going to win this game, it's going to be on the back of Nick Chubb. And Kareem Hunt, he hasn't played in like 8 weeks or something. So how many touches is this guy actually going to take away? I think you buy into the fear here. Nick Chubb is one of the best rushers in the NFL. It's kind of getting overlooked because of Jonathan Taylor, but I love him for captaining him, especially in the showdown.
All right, Jeff, let's get your favorite bet for this one.
Yeah, I think Pierce and I are kind of on the same page as far as betting this game. I mean, I just feel like the Browns are being underrated. Just take them on the money line. They're plus 155 here. You look at what Baltimore's done. 3 of their wins this year have come by 3 points or less. You could take them on the spread, but I mean, I just think you're getting good value here. The Browns have one of the best defensive lines. They've got one of the best rushers. There's multiple avenues for how they could win this game. Ravens are just overrated. I like the Browns on the money line.
Yeah, Pierce, you're like relatively on the same page. You like the Browns plus 3.5 here.
Yeah, I'll take the safer option, take the Browns and the points, but Jeff's probably right just to take the money line. The Ravens are probably the worst 7-3 team I've seen in recent memory. I mean, they got lucky they barely beat the Bears, they barely beat the Lions, they lost to the Dolphins. This is not a good team. Meanwhile, when the Browns were healthy, we were talking about this team as being elite and a possible championship contender. Well, guess what? They're healthy again now. And I know they lost Beckham, but you remember last year when they lost Odell Beckham Jr., they got better. I imagine that the same thing will happen. They have all the pieces to win. They just need injured Mayfield to be a game manager, and they can easily win this game.
All right, Pierce, we're moving on to Seahawks Washington football team. What's your favorite DFS play in this one?
Let's stick with the tight ends. Logan Thomas. We've played every Washington tight end this season. It's worked. Why not go back to Logan Thomas? Before he got injured, it looked like he was going to be an elite tight end this season. He's facing a Seattle team that's allowed the fourth most passing yards, but they have a very low depth of target, which means they give up a bunch of yards underneath. That's where Logan Thomas will be. That's also where J.D. McKissic will be. I imagine that's how Washington's going to move the ball. The offense seems to revolve around the tight end. I like Logan Thomas.
Jeff, you want him to let Russ cook here.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I think the Russell Wilson DK Metcalf connection is what you want to attack here. But I love Russell Wilson for a bounce back game. I think he's going to spread the ball around a little bit. Washington's allowed the most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks this year. You know, yards per pass attempt. They're just bottom 10 in most passing metrics. I think we all know that. But they also have 2 corners in Kendall Fuller and William Jackson III, who's 6 feet or less in height. DK Metcalf's going to have a 3+ inch height advantage. I think Russ and DK connect for a big game. Captain whoever you want, but you got to play Russell Wilson in this spot.
All right, Jeff, what's your favorite bet in this one?
I'm going to stick with the Seahawks. If I have Russell Wilson, you know, let's just dial it back even further. We have Russell Wilson versus Taylor Heinecke in this game. I mean, I'm sorry. And you're just giving me a toss-up. I'm just going to take Russell Wilson here. Also, let's throw in the Pete Carroll and primetime picks, segment here because he's 33-10 as Seahawks coach in primetime games. Washington's coming off a couple nice wins. They haven't really beat anybody this year except for that one Tampa Bay game. I think Russell Wilson is just too elite a quarterback not to take against the Washington football team who's really not that good. So give me the Seahawks to cover the -1 or just take them on the money line.
Pierce, favorite bet, please.
Terry McLaurin and DK Metcalf to combine for 139.5 receiving yards. I think one of them can probably get there, let alone both against these defenses that rank near the bottom in yards allowed, rank near the bottom in depth of target, air yards. These teams just get chewed up through the air, and these 2 receivers are elite.
All right, guys, thank you. That's going to do it for Primetime Picks. Now I'm going to toss it over to my co-host, Emerson Lotzia, who's doing what he does best and working up a sweat.
The master.
Thank you.
Good job. Good to have everybody here. Is my mic on? I think it is.
Is my mic on?
Nope. Now it's on. Anywho, yeah, we are working up a sweat. So last minute DFS takes here, guys. Go ahead, Julian. What do you got? Anything you're rethinking right now?
Not as much rethinking as like still figuring out, right? This is a weird slate that I think a lot of tinkering is going to go on right up to lock. We're looking at tight end. We've been talking about tight end a lot. There's not many guys that you like. Do you want to pay for Kittle in a okay matchup? Maybe. Then you have Kelsey, Waller, all these other guys off the slate. I think the tight end position is one that we've been talking a lot about punting. And then at running back, I think that you can. There are high price names that you can like. I think there's a lot of mid price guys that you can get the value from this week and pay up at receiver.
Reed, what about you, man?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, when you take a look at this slate, trying to find that game that's going to be like the 47-48 that can get up to like 55-60, right? That's the one that you always try to attack. And like I talked about Tampa Bay quite a bit in that first segment, and that kind of goes to what Julian was saying. Like Gronk is not someone that I'm necessarily paying up for. Like I think he's fine. I think he can score a touchdown. But there are tight ends in this matchup or tight ends on this slate that you want to attack. I think what you do is you pay down both at tight end and quarterback. And to Julian's point, you pay up for wide receiver and you pay up for someone, one of these running backs. And the receivers that are probably in primetime spots, one that I'll get to in a little bit, and our Make It Rain pick. But there's a lot of good receivers on this slate. I think Keenan Allen, I've said his name quite a bit. I think Cooper Kupp is fine. Justin Jefferson is breaking all of these records. He's absolutely amazing. So I want to pay up at wide receiver. I want to get those guys. It's usually a place you pay down, but I'm paying down at tight end quarterback.
Okay, so where are you going to pay up then today? Same position. You agree with Reed? It's a wide receiver, running back type slate.
I think this is actually a slate where you pay up for defense, and this is not something that we usually do, but you look at the Patriots defense going up against the Titans this week, it's absolutely absurd. Like, we've seen defense and special team plays go over the 4K mark. The Patriots are at 3,900 this week. Over the past 5 games, which is all games that they've won, they're averaging 16.8 DraftKings fantasy points. If you told me you can get a DFS player at 3,900 to go over, almost 4x their value, you would take that. That's what you can get with the Patriots here today. Tannehill is throwing so many picks. There's going to be turnovers in this game. He's throwing to a bunch of guys that are just hardly even taking the field. 3,900 for the Patriots, and they're not checking in at really high ownership, which is shocking as well. Give me that defense all day.
Yeah, what's interesting too is you see the Texans defense, as you mentioned that.
One of the highest projected ownership.
Right? Yeah, like $2,300. It kind of makes sense.
Zach Wilson on the road.
Yep.
And they finished 6th and 2nd in fantasy scoring their last 2 games, and the pass rush is really the reason for that thing. Now you got the Jets coming to town. Make it rain pick, okay? This is the DFS play, the human being, the fantasy football player who is going to make it rain cash for lineups out there today. Who do you got?
Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin is in a great spot. I talked
wide
about
receiver. That's spot you
wide
say you gotta pay
receiver
up
is at
for.
$7,000 at Indy. On that turf, indoors. I mean, everything lines up for Tom Brady to absolutely go berserk on this team. And no AB. We've seen now Chris Godwin without Antonio Brown get a lot of work. 19% of the looks from TB are going to Chris Godwin. You see he's averaging 12.4 yards per reception and has targeted 8 or more times in 6 weeks. When you get that guy, and Steve mentioned it last week too, that this guy gets targeted the most on this team in the red zone. So when you put those things together, I think Chris Godwin at $7,000, which is why also I'm fading a guy like Gronk, is I think Chris Godwin's in one of those places that you just put him in your lineup and you feel really good about.
A lot like Mike Evans, too, a top 10 fantasy receiver. And as AB does miss time, that could be a meaty stack today, yeah? With Evans and Godwin?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm going a different route here. I'm going with Keenan Allen as my make it rain pick. You look at the wide receiver 1 numbers on the Chargers. It was Mike Williams for the better half of the first part of the season. It has shifted back to Keenan Allen over the last 4 games. Mike Williams averaging 5.5 targets per game. Allen is at 12. This week in coverage, he's going to be getting Kyle Fuller when he's in the slot. Kyle Fuller is only allowing just under a 60% reception rate, but on those receptions, over 16 yards per reception. Keenan Allen should be able to go to downfield with ease in this game. I think the Chargers are going to be one of the highest scoring teams on this slate, so it makes sense to go with someone like Keenan Allen.
He Williams stacking options alongside Justin Herbert today. We have less than 90 seconds to go in the show, Jules. Who do you like today?
Yeah, I'm going to go a little off the radar at running back. Melvin Gordon. He's $5,300. We're going with a little revenge narrative against his former team, who also happens to be the worst in the NFL against the rush. The rushing prop with Najee Harris didn't get there for us last week. I think that the Broncos at home are going to be able to run on the Chargers, stay in this game. And Melvin Gordon is, he's a guy that we've seen get 18, 21 carries in some games. I think they'll give him the ball here.
Chargers have allowed 11 touchdowns to running backs in their last 6 games.
Well, the Chargers are convinced to keep this guy and William or Javonte in like a complete split, right? Like they're not giving one or the other. And Melvin Gordon has been scoring touchdowns. So for the team, obviously, it makes a lot of sense.
The only issues he's had is like fumbling a couple times in the past 3 games, and I believe the last game,
those are
his
issues.
Fumble was returned.
This is the one spot though that if Javonte Williams was going to take over, it'd be in this game.
Would be the matchup.
So that's the only thing that you think about, but I don't think it's.
Why not against the Eagles?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't think it's going to happen, but against one of the worst defenses, right? He could get you 18 carries.
Last time the Broncos won a game, Melvin Gordon had 21 carries against the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay, that's a lot. All right, boys. Good show today.
Thanks.
Everyone, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Appreciate all you guys and gals hanging out with us. We will be back here on Bally Sports next Sunday, week 13 already at high noon.